Three, two, one.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cassidy, one of your Indianapolis Colts cheerleaders, and you're watching the Believe in Colts podcast.
Welcome back to Believe in Colts. I'm Lawrence Owen. With me, as usual, are my guys Jerraud Powers and Rodney McLeod, and we have a ton to talk about today. As we already seen, the Super Bowl is now officially over. There were some interesting things and tidbits to talk about with the Super Bowl, and today we're going to sit here and discuss them. Right? One of the big things that I think that we should be talking about is things that aren't being talked about as much about the Super Bowl, because there was a lot of push about the holding call on Bradbury at the end, which he admitted to at the end of it. But there, to me, in my opinion, whether or not you think it should be called or should not be called, that's one play in a game with hundreds of plays in it, and so in my opinion, it shouldn't even came down to whether or not the refs could make the call or not. But we'll get into that in a little bit. Jerraud, how are you and things going on in your life right now?
Everything's going. Can't complain. Kids got me busy. Springtime. Everybody's doing multiple sports, and weekends are filled up. So it's a lot of fun, but a lot of busy family type stuff that we got to do. But can't complain about it. Blessed to be able to do it.
Absolutely. Welcome back from your little stint on vacation there, Rodney. How are you? And hopefully you might feel as though your batteries are a little bit recharged now after that little stint.
Yeah, man, I definitely feel refreshed, fresh off the island. Came back with a nice little tan. Had the opportunity to catch the game out there with some people, some strangers, really. I've never met before, but it was a good time. Property did a real good job, man. Shout out to Sandals. And, yeah, just feeling good. Jerraud, I definitely see him, man. He is a traveling dad. He does it all. My man's at the AAU events. Then he transfer over. Now he the coach for the 7-on-7 league, I see.
And then last night, I'm a second grade basketball coach. So, it's a lot of fun, man. These kids keep you going. Kids keep you going. Man, so I lost my voice a little bit. Yeah, I'm a little hoarse. A lot of yelling this past weekend.
Yelling at the refs?
No question. No question.
Doesn't matter what sport you're playing, you're yelling at the refs.
No question. Right? No question about it.
All right. Well, hey, guys, I want to remind everyone that BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season, everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, pre-contest, live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use that promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, to receive your rewards. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so the Super Bowl, guys, that was a very fun game. Boy, did I hit that total score dead on. I just got the wrong team, man. That's messed up. I predicted about 38-35, right?
No, and I saw Nate Burleson actually predicted the same score, but with the Chiefs winning, he hit it on the head as well.
Oh, wow.
I don't know how y'all did that. You would have been two of however many people in the States, who got that or watching the game. Billions, whatever it was.
My goodness.
It's impressive.
Well, I've hit I'm usually pretty close on total scores. I've always been pretty good at kind of looking ahead, seeing matchups and things of that nature. But I just felt like I said in the previous game, I felt like the referees were just going to let a lot of things go. They didn't at the end of the game, but for the most part, I think, unless it was egregious, they were going to let them play the game in general. And I feel like for the most part, they did that. What do you think, Jerraud?
Man, I thought it was a played game from both teams. I thought the refs let the guys play for the most part, and that's what you want in these big type games. You don't want, a bunch of penalties or anything like that. You kind of want both sides to duke it out. And I thought it was a clean game for the most part. I mean, I know they said it wasn't, too many penalties called, but when you watch the game, it didn't seem like, anything egregious was going on from either side. It just seemed like a well played competitive game.
Rodney?
Yeah, I thought they did a good job officiating the game. Obviously, you had the one play that everyone has the biggest fuss over, and of course, you hate to see the game in that way. But you have to respect the cause. It's a part of the game. But at the end of the day, I think it's credit to the players, for playing disciplined football throughout. Like Jerraud said, it was a clean game, and that I don't think that had a lot to do with the refs. I think it was more so because of the way the players, played in that game, understanding everything you do is magnified, man, to the extreme level. Every inch, every blade of grass matters. And so, you have to tip your hat to the players and the coaching staff for having both teams, both of their teams prepared and ready, and playing discipline and competitive football at the end of the day.
Jalen Hurts had himself a game. Wow, over
Oh, yeah.
400 yards, I think 4 touchdowns, and rushing like crazy. What
Lights
did
out.
you gain from watching Jalen Hurts on in the Super Bowl, Jerraud?
I mean, it's been a lot of talk about Jalen all season. Everybody's saying that, Philly, it's easy to play quarterback. They got all these weapons. They got a great system. Anybody can come in and, and do that job. But I think on this stage, when everybody's watching, where every single play is magnified, when the pressure is on, and everybody sees every movement, every detail of the game, it's only so many people that can rise up to that moment and take advantage of that situation. And I think what Jalen showed in the Super Bowl, it should not be not one person ever doubt him again about being a franchise quarterback. All year he's been proving to us that he was the man for the job. He was ready to lead this team and do all that. And us in the media, not saying us in particular, but just the media period, kept trying to have these storylines about it's the system, it's not the quarterback. And I think Jalen just proved that he's on pace, or his trajectory is to be one of the best quarterbacks in this league. And going into next year, his name should definitely be mentioned with the rest of the guys as one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL.
Absolutely. Rodney?
Man, Birdman said it, man. Put some respect on his name. After that performance, what is there left to say? Honestly, I said on our podcast last week that I felt as though the Chiefs would do a good job at stopping the run, and they did that.
Yeah.
And they forced Jalen to have to throw the ball and be a quarterback, and he proved that he can throw the ball at a high level. The accuracy, that you saw multiple times, the post route or the big 7 that he threw to AJ Brown, the throw down the sideline to Devontae Smith both times. The first one obviously, was a tough catch to make. Obviously ruled incomplete, but the next one, set them up big. And just, again, like he's shown all year, is his ability to stay poised in the biggest moments of the game. They go down. Mahomes is having an incredible second half, and then he goes down, being down 8, and rally his team back in maybe 5 plays, right? And then he finished it off with a 2-point conversion with his legs, and you see his ability to be able to take over a game, and that's something that you can't necessarily account for. The Chiefs, I mean, honestly, if they didn't have Jalen Hurts on that team, a couple times situations, 4th and 5, a couple third down calls, the game may have been completely different, right? It could have been a larger deficit than what it was. And so, man, I just think, for Jalen, he deserves his respect. He's going to be one of the best quarterbacks around in this league for some time to come. And a matchup that we can look forward to, man, between, every time those two quarterbacks go at it. Two black quarterbacks that are very inspiring, for the black community and a lot of kids out there watching, knowing that their dreams could come true and that, they can actually play the quarterback position. So much respect to both quarterbacks and, of course, Jalen Hurts.
Can't hear you, Lawrence.
Yeah, you can't.
Thank you. Jalen did have a play in this game that, in my opinion, probably kind of made things a little bit a lot more difficult for the Eagles, and that was where the unforced fumble that was a scoop and score for the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering what you guys saw of that play and probably how that affected the total game in general. Jerraud?
I mean, it was just an unfortunate play. You know, it wasn't like somebody knocked the ball out of his hands. I mean, sometimes stuff like that just happens, and you know, the ball bounces the other way, goes with the Chiefs, and they pick it up and score. But the one thing that I took from that play was just a momentum changer. Philly was in control of the game at that moment, and it seemed like Philly was, you know, about to drive the ball back down the field and score again, where Chiefs was kind of on the ropes a little bit, trying to get a stop on defense. And then all of a sudden, boom, that fumble happens to tie the game up. And you can just tell the momentum shifted, and the Chiefs took that play from that play on forward. The Chiefs rode the momentum for the rest of the game, and that's what championships, veteran type teams do. You know, they try to take advantage of every miscue that, you know, the opponent gives you, and just try to ride that momentum. And this game right here was in particular a game of momentum. You know, and you just felt the Chiefs just kept riding that momentum wave. I know I keep saying that word, but I truly feel that was the reason why the Chiefs won the game. It wasn't necessarily, you know, the X's and O's, even though some of these play designs from Andy Reid was phenomenal. But, you know, when you got a game that's going back and forth and, you know, you're trying to get a stop on defense, sometimes you need the ball to just bounce your way sometimes. And that's what happens with the Chiefs.
Rodney?
Yeah, what I saw in that play, and I know Nick Sirianni very well and how they're coached over there, and they are coached very well in ball security. You know, they have 5 different styles of the way you should protect the ball, you know, in close quarters. You know, whether, you know, you see defenders, you don't see defenders, sideline, body ball protection, like they go over these things consistently and make an emphasis of it. And so, you know, when you see the play, you see Jalen, you know, trying to switch the ball as defenders are getting close. And I think, you know, that's what happened on that play is, you know, a situation where he probably should have just held the ball in whatever arm necessary, but trying to defend off defenders who, man, credit to the Chiefs, you know, linebackers in general. I think he's Bolden 32.
Bolden. Yeah, he balled.
Man, he's a baller. And that was really my first time seeing him up close and personal, you know, and I was very impressed. I mean, anything on that field moving, like he's a part of. And so you got to credit to, man, rallying to the ball, swarming to the football population. You know, as a defender, man, Jerraud knows we talk about it. Good things happen when you run to the ball. And he was there to capitalize on a huge momentum swing for that team and keep the Chiefs in the game. Because that was the thing about it. You know, you go down 14, it's very hard to come back versus Philly. And really, when you think of that game, the Chiefs needed every possession possible to walk away with that victory. So huge play for the defense. I said it again, like turnovers were big. And I think the 2 games that the Eagles lost this year, they lost the turnover battle.
Absolutely. Another thing that I believe that is a big deal when it comes to playoff football, we've talked about it. You got to have a run game. You got to have a good defense, right? And in the run game, you spoke about it earlier, how the Chiefs really held the Eagles' run game down between Gainwell and Scott and Sanders. They all combined for under 3 yards a carry. And then you go and flip it and go look at the Chiefs and Isaiah Pacheco, something like that.
Pacheco.
Yeah, 15 carries over 5 yards a carry. You know, these are including that one touchdown, right? They were able to run the football against this Philly defense, and I believe that helped them a ton because it kept their playbook completely open and able to, keep the Philadelphia Eagles defense guessing throughout the entire game.
Yeah, I thought the Chiefs O-line for the last 2 weeks, only thing they heard about is how great, you know, Philly's, you know, defensive front is and you know, the sacks and the pressure and just how the style that those guys play with. And you could tell that the Chiefs O-line took it personal. Pat Mahomes didn't get a sack, and they rushed for, I want to say, over 150 or 160 or something like that as a team. I mean, that's a true championship team. And it was kind of funny not funny, but it was kind of intriguing to see that stat, because as you watch the game, you kind of notice, like, dang, Pat Mahomes is not getting hit. Man, they haven't had a sack. Man, he do got time to do this and that. Man, they are running the ball successfully. And once you're able to run the ball, you can control things. When it's second and short, when it's third and short. Like you said, Lawrence, your whole playbook is open. It's a different ball game compared to calling a game where it's third and long all the time, or when it's compared to when it's third and 5 below. So I thought the battle in the trenches, as we say as defenders, I thought it was won by the Chiefs, and that's how you win big games like this.
Rodney?
Yeah, I look at a few things, and you look at like Jerraud said, the battle of the trenches. You look at the Eagles' offensive line that didn't allow a sack. You look at the Chiefs' offensive line didn't allow a sack, but the difference was the rush lanes that the Chiefs were able to create for their running backs. Jalen Hurts is a different beast, right? Like, they had to rely on Hurts, to keep the Chiefs honest in the run game. And I think what you saw from the Chiefs was, on both sides, was a balanced attack. You saw them stay ahead of the chains, and that's what you want, to not put yourself in those 2nd and 15 or 2nd and 10. Like, everything was manageable for both sides for majority of the game. And that's credit to both coaches for staying true to the run game. And that's the biggest question mark for Andy Reid, right? When you have a Patrick Mahomes, you can kind of lean on his God-gifted ability, right? That Mahomes is going to make everything all right. But what you saw was, a true balance attack, understanding the threat that the defensive line of the Eagles, can cause for not only your offensive line, but your quarterback, who's also immobile for a little bit. And so I got to tip my hat to Andy Reid, offensive guru, man. And also Mahomes for just playing quarterback and making it happen, man. Like, just whatever I'm given, I'm going to do. I'm not going to turn the ball over. I'm not going to put my team at risk. He played a very smart game. I mean, he's clearly one of the best to do it. Like, the ability, how fast they can score, it's impressive. And like I said, they needed every possession possible. But the Chiefs just all around, just, offensively, man, came to play. And, you got to credit, Pacheco and that offensive line for playing a huge part in that game.
Hat off to Andy Reid. I'm telling you, there was a couple scores for the Chiefs where he had a design play. I guess he saw something in the Eagles defense that he took advantage of. And I just want you guys, either one of you, to break down the motion play that ended up getting guys wide open.
So it's a copycat lead. When you watch Philly play Jacksonville during the season, Doug Peterson, who comes from Andy Reid, ran the exact same plays and scored on Philly with it. So when you know that the defense is in man coverage, when you do a lot of the speed motions, a lot of time there's communication that goes on defense with that, to where you might be rocking and rolling with somebody, to where if it's a fast motion, the safety's going to come from over the top and you're going to replace the safety as a corner, and and you have different responsibilities when that happens. So when that motion happens and the safety's gone, you're basically now wired to think like a safety, because you're replacing him in his spot. And when you look at the play with the Chiefs, and I want to say it was my man Slay, soon as the motion going, he's trying to look at the safety to communicate, and it happened so dang fast, he didn't even realize that he came back. So like you said, it's a great play design, but it's a play that Andy Reid took from Doug Peterson, because when they played Jacksonville scored on it, on the exact same motion, exact same play, exact same situation.
Is there a situation there, Rodney, where you can do something to adjust to something like that when it's a cancellation in the motion?
So what happened, to Jerraud's point, he's correct, but you see the first time there's a safety in the middle of the field, right? And you go over this often. The Eagles have identified before, for the past 2 weeks, who are the jet motion guys. More than likely, it's Tony, 19, and it's 24, Scott Moore. those things are true, right? So the minute that you get an indicator before the snap, hey, I'm anticipating this guy getting ready to come in motion. You see the communication going on with Slay and I think Garner Johnson on the play. And it's a great schemed play by the Chiefs. And the minute that Slay goes to replace the safety, he now returns into the flat and nobody's there. The second play, right? You go back and now they catch them in zero coverage. Now Avante is now responsible for him man to man all over the field. There's nobody he's communicating with in the back end to help him, because the worst thing that you're fearful of as a DB is a guy beating you all the way across the field into the flat or jet sweep, right? And so you want to get another defender over there. So Avante now is anticipating, look, I have to beat him over to the other side. When he does that again, he returns. So the one thing that you can try to coach is, look, fellas, we might need to have better eye discipline and stand and looking at the receiver just a little longer because of this. But again, the Eagles never saw that on film from the Chiefs. So again, it's just, man, tip your hat to Andy Reid, man. Perfect play calling, anticipation, knowing what the Eagles defense would be in, and it was executed well.
Yeah, I believe so too. Any final words about the Super Bowl and what you gained from this, Jerraud?
I thought it was a well-played game. One of the best Super Bowls I watched just in a while, just far as just heavyweights, just exchanging blows, exchanging punches. Early on, I felt like Philly was about to kind of just control the game, hot start, and you just can just feel that energy going, and then all of a sudden, boom, that fumble happens, and it kind of just gave the Chiefs more life. And it was just like a heavyweight matchup, man. It was fun to watch. Both quarterbacks played great. Both teams played clean for the most part. And, at the end of the day, the better team won, and that was Pat Mahomes. And I think I can officially say now that they're in the middle of a dynasty. I think that's 2 out of 3 Super Bowls, 5 straight AFC championships. Pat Mahomes just cemented himself as one of the best to ever do it. He's only 26 years old, so we're probably going to see this for another 10, 12, 15 years, however long he wants to play. But I thought it was just a well-played, great Super Bowl.
Absolutely. Rodney.
Yeah, great Super Bowl. Both teams laid it on the line. They all played at a high level. I think both teams, should really be obviously proud of themselves for what they put on tape. And it was a competitive game, and that's what you want to see. You're going to get the best from everybody on that field, and it showed. And obviously, I think the experience aspect of Mahomes and Andy Reid was a deciding factor in this game. And Andy Reid from the beginning being able to slow down that defensive line with his play calling, trusting in his quarterback, Mahomes, him landing on the line, understanding he's at a high ankle sprain. He aggravated early in the game, but that didn't stop him. You see Jalen Hurts, man, willing his team. Like I said, man, it was a game that you couldn't go to the bathroom. Like you just, it was one of those, man, you wanted to just see more. And I think that's why, so many people were, again, so frustrated by the way that the game ended, was because you wanted to see, all right, Jalen Hurts is going to have X amount of time to go down, and is he going to save the day, for the Eagles and will his team to a victory? But, you credit the Chiefs. They played a great second half, and they're world champions.
Well, thank you again, guys, for coming on and talking about the Super Bowl. Thank you, everybody, for watching Believe in Colts, brought to you by Bet Online. I am Lawrence Owen. That's Jerraud Powers, Rodney McLeod. And until next time, as usual, go Colts.
Do you believe?
All right. Now we'll talk about the Colts stuff and Steichen and everything that goes along with. I completely forgot I muted myself because my cats were screaming at each other earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. 3. Ooh, I almost clicked the wrong intro. 3, 2, 1.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cassidy, one of your Indianapolis Colts cheerleaders, and you're watching the Believe in Colts podcast.
Welcome back to Believe in Colts. I'm Lawrence Owen. With me, as usual, are my guys Jerraud Powers and Rodney McLeod. And oh wow, news. We've been talking about who the next head coach of the Indianapolis Colts are going to be for a while now, ever since the season ended for the Indianapolis Colts. A lot of speculation, long time waiting. I personally, Ballard said, during his end of season press conference, this could last until the mid-February. Guys, it's February 14th. You don't get more mid than that. There's only 28 days in this month. So it's dead on. I was saying it could be, the week after right after the Super Bowl, because of interviews of guys that might be coaching in the Super Bowl. Well, guess what? Shane Steichen, ladies and gentlemen, that should be your new head coach for the Indianapolis Colts. Jerraud, thoughts on Shane as the guy here in Indy for who knows how long?
Well, I don't know Shane personally, but it seemed like the Eagles front office, organization, and coaches everybody seem to be trying to get their guys, all across the league. So, but just looking at the Eagles offense the past couple of years, I mean, obviously they got a great scheme, great players and all those type of things, and they do a good job of developing quarterbacks over there, no matter who's at the helm. Carson Wentz has success there, Nick Foles, obviously, and now you see Jalen Hurts having success there. So I'll be eager to see the direction Shane will want to go in the quarterback room, with the Colts, and how we'll look, from that standpoint. But it seems like anybody that you can grab from the Eagles organization, that they're a hot ticket right now. They've been the standard for the past few years.
It's weird, Rodney. This is kind of odd because you played on a team with Shane Steichen in 2021. You played this past year with Frank Reich, and both of them were the offensive coordinators for the Eagles when they went to the Super Bowl. That's kind of, I don't know. I thought that was a bit of a weird thing, right? And then end up becoming the Colts head coach right after that. So your thoughts on Shane Steichen being the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts?
I think Shane Steichen is a great candidate, what I'm saying, and a great decision to, bring him in as the, new head coach for the Colts. And he's well respected in that building over in Philly and across the league. And, Jerraud knows you have a chance to go to the Super Bowl, and obviously they didn't win, but, you now become a hot commodity, as Mike Jones say, man, back then didn't want me. Now I'm hot. They all on me. And so that's what you're seeing is from that staff over there. A few guys are getting their opportunity to be able to lead a team. And I think, Shane has a great track record of not only on the offensive side, but, just looking at his resume, he was a defensive assistant, at one time. He's done quality control. He's been an assistant coach, OC. So he's done a lot within a team, and he's seen a lot. And so that perspective alone allows you, just to have a better viewpoint from a holistic standpoint as a coach and as a head coach at that. You get both sides of the ball in the football, and then you add the fact that he's played, at one point. So he knows, has that player mentality. And then you see the job that he's done with quarterbacks. It's particularly young quarterbacks. And so when you look at that and you see the Colts now and don't know what the future holds, but, there's a lot of talks about, possibly picking up a young quarterback in the draft, right? And so having the ability of somebody who has experience, that can take those steps with that quarterback, put him in good position to succeed, and help him grow in the way that you want to see for your team to have success. He's probably the best guy out there right now as you look at, all the rest of the candidates that they have listed.
Absolutely. Talking about his history with quarterbacks, I mean, the last three quarterbacks that he's worked with, Phillip Rivers, Justin Herbert and Jalen Hurts. I mean, that right there pretty much lists the type of quarterbacks there are in the NFL, right? Completely, all the way around the board. Head coaches, they have a lot of say-so in the players that the GM or whoever is drafting for a team brings into the organization. And as an offensive mind, Steichen's going to have a lot of input on the type of quarterback that Chris Ballard will be bringing in. And because he's coached 3 different quarterbacks, 3 different style quarterbacks, does that make it a little bit more difficult on who, he might be going for, say, in the draft, you think, Jerraud?
I'm not sure. It depends on his system and the style that he wants to run. Obviously, when the quarterbacks that you name, they're all different, like you said. So to me, as a player, what I'm taking from that is it seems like you got a coach that's willing to adjust, what he does offensively to fit what's available to him as far as in the quarterback room. So that's a plus right there. And maybe it doesn't matter, the style. He just wants the better quarterback, and he'll be able to adjust his system and some of the things that he do and put that guy in the best position possible. So for him to have, like you said, multiple different style of quarterbacks that he's worked with in the past, which all has been successful. It just shows you that he's willing to change up some of the things that he thinks schematically that'll work for either of those guys. So, I mean, that's a plus right there going into the building.
And Rodney, the last 2 quarterbacks in particular, he's walked into the NFL and they've both had instant success, as you have said, between Herbert walking in and just shocked the NFL, and then obviously Hurts over there in Philly. Is it safe to expect that he could probably do that again with a 3rd quarterback here in Indy?
I think as you look at his track record, you would say there's a good chance. And there's a high probability that can happen. Of course, nothing is ever guaranteed, but I think he knows the qualities and the characteristics and has, the ability to get the most out of his players. And I think the biggest thing, to Jerraud's point, is allowing players to play to their strength, right? And him understanding who is lining up behind center and how do I adjust, my game plan and my scheme to fit them in whatever stage that they're in their career, right? Like there are phases, that you go through. And so you have to understand, maybe as a coordinator, head coach, I can't put too much on, my quarterback at this point in time. I have to give him just enough, right? And there's steps, there's baby steps as you progress. And so I think he'll do a good job at managing whatever quarterback he has and play, more importantly, to their strength.
Absolutely. Jerraud, here's a question that I've been trying to work this around in my mind for a while. When a head coach is announced and comes in, first immediate thing that he needs to do is get himself a staff around him, right? And if he keeps Gus Bradley, does that make it easier on him, or does that make it a little bit more difficult when it comes to the defensive side and he only has to worry about offensive side? Or does him and Gus Bradley, you think, need to get together and discuss the support staff around the defensive side? I'm trying to wrap my hand around that.
I'm pretty sure he's probably going to meet with everybody, but normally when you bring a head coach in, he already has guys that, he wants to work with, guys that, he feels fit his culture and his environment, the best. I mean, obviously he's going to come in and he's going to listen to the owner. He's going to listen to Jim Irsay and Chris on what they would recommend for our staff and all those things. And if Gus fits, what he wants to do and what he wants the defense to look like, Gus will be there. I mean, I think everybody understands at the end of the day, it's not something that you can take personal when a head coach comes in and he has just certain guys that he wants, on his team and on his staff. So I'm pretty sure that he'll meet with Gus, and if Gus fits his style, that the way that he feels a defense, should look and what he wants it to look like while he's at the helm of things, Gus will be there. Because like Rodney said, we got a coach that actually worked on the defensive side of the ball. So it's not like it's a foreign, something foreign to him, and he don't kind of have a clue or have an idea of what a defense should look like. Like he knows exactly, what's his what he wants his defense to look like. And like I said, if Gus fits that, Gus will be there.
All right, Rodney. Rodney, here's the thing. All right, I'm putting you in Shane Steichen's shoes. It's historical when a guy goes and is hired as a head coach from one team to another, from like a coordinator to become a head coach at another, he tends to poach coaches from his former team to come over and play. Can you name me some guys on that staff that if you were in Steichen's shoes, you'd be like, I would want that guy right there helping me out in my new position as a head coach?
That's a great question. But I got to go to the defensive side of the ball. And, one of my favorite coaches all time, man, he had the ability to coach me not only in the league, but high school as well, which is rare. Denard Wilson. And, he's a secondary coach in the leagues, done it at a high level for a long time. Of course, you saw what, a secondary, did, for that team this year. And so, he's somebody, just his experience, his coaching habits and style is just, and character and what he brings to a defensive back room and I think a staff as a whole is somebody who I could just identify as, I will want him on my team, and not saying that he's going to bring Denard along, because obviously if he keeps Gus, there are certain individuals in place already. Milo, who's another great coach that I had the pleasure of working with this year, who's already intact. So it'll be interesting, but that's somebody that I can point to and say, that's somebody that if I'm Shane Steichen and I go anywhere, I would love to have Denard Wilson, as a representation of my defense in some capacity, D coordinator, DB coach, whatever it might be. But what's interesting about, whether or not he keeps Gus is he knows Gus very well, from San Diego, now LA Chargers. And so that relationship there, they know one another very well. And so I would think, if the Colts have already kind of hinted at keeping Gus, they've had those conversations probably with Shane up to this point about how do you feel about Gus? You being around him and working with him and going against the defense every single day at practice and just understanding who he is as a man and a leader. Is that somebody that you want also, leading the defense this year, now as you as a new head coach? So be interesting to see what happens, but there's a lot of familiarity there already.
Absolutely. Now, one of the big things that was a problem with the Indianapolis Colts was the offensive line this past year. They had a lot of troubles getting back into the rhythm that they were used to playing it for years and years and years. Steichen coming in, coming from a team where that offensive line has generally played phenomenal football for years now. Do you think that Jerraud would you be interested in seeing Steichen maybe bringing in like the assistant O-line coach over to take over the role as the offensive line coach or something of that nature?
I don't know. Like I say, I'm like Rodney. From the offensive standpoint, I don't know. I think as a coach, when you're offense or defensive guy, let's just say Shane's offensive guy right now, man, you got to just do what you think's best to fit what you want to do as a head coach. Anything that happened last year is irrelevant. You're going to self-scout. You're going to, evaluate everybody that played every snap and all those type things. But, you're literally coming in here with a fresh slate. Nobody's going to judge you off of last year's O-line or anything like that. So you got to come in and bring guys in with you or whatever you got to do to showcase what you want the coach to look like. So everything that happened with the O-line this past year, it's irrelevant, for Shane to come in, because he's going to come in with his own style, his own scheme, his own blocking, his own ways on how he wants things blocked. And it's not going to look like what it looked like what we were doing last year from a scheme standpoint. So Shane got to come in, and he's going to, no different than when I was a free agent in 2013 and Bruce Arians going to Arizona. He brought his own guys in, his own scheme. He did not mention anything the year previous on any play that any guy made from that team. So Shane got a fresh start, and it's one of those exciting type of fresh starts because he's coming from, Philly, to where every time we watched these guys this year, we were just impressed, with their offensive line and their offensive scheme. So I'm just excited to see what he's going to do with what he has in the coach locker room right now.
Absolutely. He's got just about every position he's got to fill flat out on the offensive side anyhow, right? There's no there's no coordinator over there. There's no running backs coach. Heck, the running backs coach, Scotty Montgomery, is assistant head coach over there with the Lions, and he's trying. And is it the Vikings? I think that I just saw a report trying to poach him again to be an offensive coordinator for them. So, and then of course the tight ends coach is gone. I don't know what's up with Strausser, the offensive line coach. The only guy I think that has even a shot who's still around and still wants to play or coach on the offensive side is Reggie Wayne. So, he's got a lot to work with there. We talked about the defense. Is he going to have a meeting with Bubba as well? Bubba Ventrone? That's another, the team is built on three people or three units. You got your offensive, your defensive, and your special teams. And me personally, I feel like the defense and the special teams really played incredibly well last year. What are your thoughts on Bubba Ventrone, Jerraud? Just in general.
Oh, I think he's a great coach. I think they did a good job this year as a unit and all that. But I'm gonna just keep going back to, when you're a head coach, you got certain guys that you want to be with, and it's not necessarily mean that, Bubba's a bad coach if he don't retain him or anything like that. It's just part of the business, man. You're gonna bring in the guys that you want to work with, the staff that you already kind of had formulated before you even got the job. Because there's one thing about it. If you're gonna get fired, and once you're the head coach, at some point you're gonna get fired. That's just part of the business. Nobody's gonna be with one team forever in their career. But if you're gonna
Bill
go,
Belichick,
true. But even he was with the Browns at one point.
Yeah.
So but what I say is, if you're gonna win or lose, and as a head coach in this league, you're gonna do it with the guys that you want to do it with, and not with guys that you're forced to be with or anything like that. And that's no knock on any of the coaches that may not be retained. They might be great coaches, just like you said. We got one guy that's left and is already been other teams are trying to get him as an offensive coordinator and all these different things. This is just the business side of the NFL, and they're trying to work. They're trying to work through that. And once they get through it, I'm pretty sure we'll have a solid staff, whether those guys stay or not.
So, Rodney, I'm not going to ask you about, whether or not Steichen should keep Bubba, but I do know that you worked with Bubba quite a bit on the special team side this past year. And I'm just curious your thoughts on Bubba as the special teams coordinator for this past season with the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, Bubba's sharp. He's a guy who demands excellence and will get the most out of his players. And he, regardless of years on special teams, it doesn't matter. He's holding you to the highest level possible, and he takes great deal of pride in his special teams unit. And so you see that in the way that the special teams unit is formed and executed, on Sundays. And they played a good reason as to why we had, we were in a lot of games, is because of field position, because of the way that we blocked, guys returned well. And so he's been, I think, top 10, the past few years from a special team standpoint, and somebody that they should highly consider keeping around.
Absolutely. I like the defense and the special teams this past season. I thought the Gus Bradley and Bubba Ventrone both did an excellent job at their positions. But like Jerraud said, Steichen's going to be hiring his own guys, right? And so
that's true.
I guess there is a chance that they could, both of those guys could end up staying, depending upon how the meetings go with him and the guy, the team meetings that they're going to have. But we just have to wait and see, right? I mean, he's got history not just with the Eagles. We talked about the Chargers. There's guys he's worked with on the Chargers that he might be looking at and going, man, I'd really like him to be the quarterback's coach, or something of that nature. So we just have to wait and see on that.
Yep, people have their guys already lined up, man. It's crazy just listening to some stories about how it works. If you're up next or if your name's called in that list for head coaching a job, you're rallying the troops and you already have guys that you've, connected with and been able to form relationships with that. Hey, if I get that job, you're the first I'm hiring. You coming with. So it's all things are already done, and it looks as if they made announcements on Twitter right now as well. Announcing Shane as the new head coach. So it's official.
Absolutely, and it was an assumption. We started this episode going. They're going to make Shane the head coach. So we're just going to go into this assuming he is the coach. And congratulations, Shane Steichen, for being the new head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Can't wait to see what comes next for the team and yourself. Next week, I think we'll probably talk a little bit about some of his moves, maybe as the week progresses. If some moves happen, if he makes a few moves over this next week on some hirings, maybe we'll get together and discuss them a little bit. There's definitely an episode soon that I want to get to about the Indianapolis Colts free agents, where I want to talk about, should we keep or should we just let them walk, on the free agent list, which, of course, Rodney, you're in there, obviously. So, but thank you so much. Is there any final words that you want to talk about with the hiring of Shane Steichen as the Indianapolis Colts head coach, Jerraud?
No, I'm glad the process is over. Now we can focus on the draft and try to get the best players we can possibly get in the building.
Absolutely. Well, I guess free agency is before the draft, but the draft is very important, obviously. Rodney?
Yeah, just want to say congrats, man, to Shane Steichen, man. Worked hard to be now in this position, and congratulations to you now as the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Like I said, if more news comes out this week about hirings, filling out the positions for Shane Steichen and Indianapolis Colts, we will get to that. But I'm Lawrence Owen. That's Jerraud Powers, Rodney McLeod. This was Believe in Colts, brought to you by Bet Online. And as usual, go Colts.
Do you believe?